Welcome to the Fame era, the genius behind Lady Gaga. Lady Gaga's debut album, The Fame, was released on the 19th of August 2008, and the album is a dance pop, synth pop, and electro pop album. Her first two singles, Poker Face and Just Dance, gained international success, and she quickly became worldwide famous, and a star was born. No pun intended. The Fame peaked at number 2 on the Billboard 200, and it became the 5th best-selling album of 2009. To promote the album, she went on the Fame Ball Tour, and it was paired with theatrics, wigs, costumes, like a big show. It was everything. The staging and theatrics of it all was really impressive. Like, it was truly show-stopping. Fun fact, Gaga is actually credited for pioneering fan base names in Western culture / media. Other than K-pop, there weren't any known fan base names that people would say now and again. But in the summer of 2009, she birthed the Little Monsters. Obviously, I'm not 100% sure, but it's pretty well known that she was the first kind of big, huge pop star in Western media to name her fans. Her visuals and aesthetics for this era were definitely giving me party girl, celebrity lifestyle vibes. Her hair was bleach blonde. She wore heavy fake tan. Her eyelashes were super in your face. Her makeup was bold. And I think that was the vibe that she was going for. And this whole aesthetic was very big in the UK. The marketing for this era was done so well because Lady Gaga was everywhere. From her music videos to her overall style, Gaga's fashion was a very big part in building her image. For her debut era, she was so influential. This was peak fashion for everyone in 2008. She was super influential. Her impact on fashion was undeniable. I don't know if I'm the only one that remembers the trend of Gaga shoes, especially in Primark. They were everywhere. So for this being the start of her career, it was quite impressive for her to have this amount of influence. With the world's eye on her, people were already so intrigued into finding out what else Lady Gaga had up her sleeve. Stay tuned for The Fame Monster, the genius behind Lady Gaga Part 2. Welcome to The Fame Monster, the genius behind Lady Gaga Part 2. After achieving worldwide success and becoming a global icon, Lady Gaga was ready to introduce her fans to a new era. The Fame Monster is a follow-up EP / reissue of The Fame, and it was released on the 18th of November 2009. It's an 8-track electro-pop album with disco, glam rock, and synth pop music. Her singles include Bad Romance, Telephone, and Alejandro. I think that's how you say it. Her lead single, Bad Romance, was a commercial success and it reached number 2 on the Billboard Hot 100. I can't talk about this era without talking about this iconic 2009 VMA performance. This performance is so iconic, it's guaranteed to still create buzz and conversation till this day because of its deeper meaning. It was rent was due with this performance. She really gave her all. She put her whole body, her whole soul into this performance, and you could just see it, and it's honestly so incredible. The Fame Monster won 3 Grammys, including Best Pop Vocal Album, and she also embarked on a world tour called The Monster Ball. In a past interview, Lady Gaga said The Fame and The Fame Monster were like yin and yang due to their contrasting styles and concepts. I find that really interesting because obviously reissues or follow-up albums are pretty similar. They're in the same kind of era, but I like how Lady Gaga really wanted it to become a whole new era. She really wanted to differentiate the difference between the two. With both eras, The Fame and The Fame Monster, Lady Gaga was actually credited for reviving EDM music, which is pretty cool. It was also during this time that Lady Gaga was being called a man, and there were rumours of her being intersex, but she actually poked fun at this in her iconic Telephone music video featuring Beyonce. At this point, she was very well known for her bizarre and wild clothing, but that was just touching the surface with the Fame era. Like, she would become even more extravagant with her outfits during the Fame Monster era. The saying of first they laugh, then they copy, I feel like is so true for Lady Gaga, especially in her debut era. Many people just didn't get her artistic expression. For Gaga to discuss the experiences of fame and the rise to stardom at such a young age, just 2 years in her debut, is pretty epic and genius. Welcome to the Born This Way era, the genius behind Lady Gaga, Part 3. With the success of the Fame and the Fame Monster, it was a no-brainer that the Born This Way era was destined for the same. Gaga announced the release date of her second studio album at the 2010 VMAs when she performed a small snippet of her lead single Born This Way in her unforgettable meat dress. This is still so iconic till this day. Born This Way was released on the 23rd of May 2011, and the album explores electronic rock and techno pop, and it also includes themes of racial inequality, politics, feminism, just to name a few. Her lead single, Born This Way, is a pop song that shares the message to her fans and the general public that it's okay to be who you are. It was generally for the queer community and anyone else who's ever felt like an outcast in society. The LGBTQ plus anthem and title of her second studio album saw major success. Born This Way became the fastest selling song on iTunes with over 1 million downloads in less than a week. The album debuted at #1 on the Billboard charts, and it was Gaga's first #1 album. The album sold over 1.1 million copies in its first week. So overall, it received incredible commercial success and accolades. If I was trying to list them all, I'd be here all day. To promote the album, Lady Gaga went on her third concert tour called the Born This Way Ball. Fun fact, Lady Gaga's song title and album name Born This Way was actually inspired by a gay black religious activist named Carl Bean, who preached, sung and wrote about being born this way. I just think that is so sweet because Born This Way is such an iconic era, and it's great to know that there's like a bit of history behind the era, the title of the song and the album. During this era, Gaga's fashion took a much darker turn. Like, she was frequently seen wearing metallics, leather, black. She also introduced prosthetics in this era. Like, all of her Born This Way photo shoot looks are like including like the horns and the cheek things. I don't know what you call them, but it definitely gives me like Disney villain vibes. And her hair was like half blonde, half black, almost like Cruella de Vil. Like, I don't know if that's a reach, but that's the vibes that I was getting. Stay tuned for part 2. I just need to highlight how beautiful this outfit, this whole ensemble is from the Born This Way era. This was just a regular day for Lady Gaga in New York, grabbing a hot dog and looking like this. I'm sorry, this literally looks like a photo shoot, but it wasn't. It was not a photo shoot. I just love it. Like, I just love this look so much. It's so flamboyant, it's so extra, but it just works and it just makes sense. Like, her branding during this era was so on point. But let's quickly talk about the Born This Way ball and the theatrics of that tour. Lady Gaga was not playing on this tour. She was not playing, guys. She had different lighting, she had a castle. A lot of her ideas for like her costumes and outfits were inspired or like around politics, culture and society. Take this outfit for example, it's obviously inspired by her iconic 2010s VMAs dress, the meat dress, and you know, it just had so much meaning and such a powerful message behind. So I don't know, I'm really impressed with how meticulous she was with everything during this era. When talking about her album cover in a past interview, Lady Gaga actually said that her album cover symbolizes her being a transformative being, which I find super interesting because the Born This Way era as a whole was 100% transformative for her career. Gaga was a force to be reckoned with, and the fact that she was speaking on topics that mainstream artists would only speak about in years to come was pretty iconic. Many people actually consider the Born This Way era as Lady Gaga's magnum opus due to its commercial success and cultural impact. But whilst this era gained a lot of praise and gave her a lot of success, it did not come without controversy. Her actions were met with a lot of backlash, and she did receive a lot of criticism for her religious imagery. A lot of people thought it was sacrilegious and, yeah, just overall like offensive to the church. I do think this was intentional, as she did release her second single, Judas, on Easter weekend. Throughout this, she continued to express her artistry and push the boundaries to get her message across and stand up for what she believed in. Overall, I think we can all agree that Lady Gaga has contributed massively to pop culture, especially with the Born This Way era. She became a voice for a community that wasn't really accepted like it is now. I think the magic of Lady Gaga is that she made a huge impact on a generation that found solace in her lyrics and message. It's officially been 10 years since Lady Gaga released her third studio album titled Art Pop. 2013 was a wild year, to say the least. In pop culture, there was a lot happening. We had huge acts like Beyonce, Katy Perry, and Miss Miley Cyrus making waves and just dominating the charts, the radios. Everyone was obsessed with what they were doing, what they were releasing, and all of that. And in the midst of all of the amazingness that was happening in the pop music scene, Lady Gaga released an album titled Art Pop that would go on to be, in layman's terms, in the nicest way possible, not a fan favourite, not a favourite for the general public, let's just say that. So let's just dive right in. Lady Gaga's third studio album, titled Art Pop, was released on the 6th of November 2013. In the words of Gaga herself, the album is described as a celebration and a poetic musical journey. We see the contrast in Art Pop from her sophomore album Born This Way in the genres and the sounds that Lady Gaga explores on this record. Art Pop is described as an EDM and synth pop record with influences from R&B, techno, dubstep, and industrial, just to mention a few. Just from listing those genres, you can already tell with this album, Lady Gaga's intent was to introduce a new sound to her fans and the world. And although EDM was already pretty much dying out or very popular during this time, or had already been done a lot, the mixing and the blending of all those other genres, the sound that came out of those mixing and blending of those genres and sounds was quite different. Themes on this album include fame, sex, self-empowerment, and Greek mythology. Before the release of this album, there was a lot going on behind the scenes in Lady Gaga's personal and professional life. Just a week before the release of Art Pop, Lady Gaga split from her long-time manager. So that is obviously a very big deal because she's just about to birth an album into the world. Very, very bad timing. But their split was cited due to creative differences, whatever the PR version of "you weren't doing a great job" was, but that was the split. Art Pop debuted atop the Billboard 200, selling 258,000 copies in its first week, making it Gaga's second consecutive #1 album, and it also became the fourth largest sales week for a female artist in 2013. This was off to a great start, in my opinion, for a flop era. And like I said, again, in 2013, there were huge acts and a lot of, I hate to pit women against each other, but I guess in the music business, it would have been considered as like competition, because we had Royals come out, Lord's new record, everyone was obsessed with it. We had Katy Perry, like I mentioned before, Beyonce's self-titled album. There was things happening in pop culture in 2013. When I think of all of that was happening in 2013, all the great music that we had, it can't have been easy, the pressure to be like a successful pop artist during this era. And in general anyway, I'm sure it's hard, but that must have added that extra little pressure, you know? But yeah, when it came to promoting this album, Gaga was working extremely hard. and she was probably overworking herself, to be honest, especially because she had just split from her longtime manager a week before the release of this album. So she was doing absolutely everything and promoting the hell out of this record. I feel like Lady Gaga is one of the few artists that takes a very personal and practical approach to her marketing and promo and album runs in general, especially at the start of her career. I felt that a lot, and I feel like fans, we as the audience, the listeners, we really appreciate that like personal approach to marketing and promoting an album. Another thing Gaga did in this era to promote and market this album was she created an app, an art pop app. The art pop app was designed to be this kind of immersive, interactive experience to go with the album, compatible with both iOS and Android. This addition to the rollout really enforced the idea that the art pop album was really an era, a project, a visual experience that she wanted fans to experience. I just realized I used experience twice in like the same sentence. I didn't use this app. I didn't get this app in 2013, but if you did, please let me know. I'd love to find out what it was like. Stay tuned for part 3. If anyone watching this downloaded the Art Pop app in 2013 when it first came out, please let me know what it was like. I'm super interested because upon my research for the Art Pop era, I had no idea that Lady Gaga was really trying to make this album such an immersive experience, and I think introducing an app is so cool, and I don't think anyone that I know or listen to had done anything like that at that point or in the pop scene. I'm not saying she's the first one to do it, but I think that's really cool, a really, really cool concept. But even though the concept and the idea and the plan was put in motion for this app, it wasn't too successful. I think after like a year, it just got deleted or removed off of like the app stores. I doubt it was intended this way, but the album rollout for Art Pop was slightly messy. I guess some people would even describe Lady Gaga's performances during this era as slightly uncouth. The specific performance that comes to mind is when she performed her song Swine. Girl, I don't know what Lady Gaga was thinking. I get the performance art. I myself am pretty open to performance art and art in general, but this was a little bit too much for me. Now, in Lady Gaga's defense, the song Swine does kind of go along with the performance act that was performed by the performance artist Millie Brown, but yeah, it was a little bit too much for me, okay? So basically, Lady Gaga is singing and the performance artist is vomiting what seemingly looks like green paint on Lady Gaga while she's singing. And I wouldn't say it's like the grossest thing I've ever seen, but it's just a bit like, especially like if you just don't like vomit and puking and all of those kind of gross things, bodily fluids. If you don't like any of that like me, then you probably would have found it a little distasteful. However, although I think Lady Gaga does take performance art and her performances very, very seriously because she's a great entertainer, I do also think that added effect of someone vomiting on you is also for shock value. It's for people to talk about your performance, and this isn't something new because Lady Gaga also did this in like, was it 2011 or 2010 with her VMA performance and her like bleeding on stage. That was really cool. So yeah, it's not really something new, so I don't understand the huge outrage, but I also kind of get it. In the art pop era, Gaga's public image was heavily criticized. And this was due to a number of reasons, such as controversial collabs with an artist who shall not be mentioned, criticism on her performances, her label drama. People were not happy, let's just say, with Lady Gaga at this time. She was getting a lot of backlash from journalists and media in general. How can I forget this? Also during this time, her lead single Applause also leaked. The media were pitting both Katy Perry and Lady Gaga's singles against each other and kind of just crapping all over Lady Gaga and her music and her single before the era had even fully kicked off. So that wasn't necessarily a great start either. So amongst all the other things that was going on, honestly, at the start of this era and behind the scenes, Lady Gaga had initially announced to fans or told fans that she had plans for an act 2 of Art Pop with much more songs. However, the plans for an act 2 never materialized, and one thing that artists don't always seem to realize is if they promise or tell fans something, we will never forget. We're the ones that consume your music on a daily basis. We consume you guys. If you tell us something, we're not going to forget it. Much like any other devoted fan base, Little Monsters don't play. When it comes to potential new music or unreleased songs, Little Monsters don't play at all. Little Monsters created a petition to get Interscope Records, Lady Gaga's record label, to release her unreleased songs and to give us Art Pop Act 2. And I think it needed like 55,000 signatures. I'm not too sure if we got to that point. I don't know if the goal was reached, but obviously Art Pop Act 2 still hasn't come out. So I'm sure the petitions are still going on and the hope is still there. But yeah, I always find it really funny when artists promise fans something and they just don't deliver. And obviously this is due to various reasons that are probably out of the artist's control, but fans never forget. I think when an artist's public image turns negative and people begin to kind of spew hatred about them, or they don't get as much radio play, or they kind of seemingly get blacklisted or anything like that, I feel like it always does leave an imprint on the art. And sometimes it can work in their favor and sometimes it can't. And I think in this case, in the Art Pop era, all of the negative press and the bad public image surrounding Art Pop and Lady Gaga specifically was not good for the album. Despite the album relatively being commercially successful, in my opinion, I still feel like maybe if it wasn't for the controversial collabs, the backlash around performances, the bad label drama, it could have done a lot better and it potentially could have been received and embraced more by the general public, but I don't know, that's just my opinion. To further promote her album, Lady Gaga embarked on her 4th concert tour. The tour was called Lady Gaga's Art Rave, the Art Pop Ball. Now that sounds like a fun, big ass party to me. And just from the videos that I watched upon my research for this video, this looked like a lot of fun. The tour grossed a total of $83 million. Insane. And Billboard listed the Art Pop Ball as the 9th best concert tour of the year. I feel like we can all collectively agree that the visuals in this era are just unmatched. They are incredibly impressive, visually pleasing, unconventional, cohesive, all of the above. I thoroughly enjoy Gaga's approach to her music videos in general, but in the Art Pop era, I feel like she really thought through it and wanted the audience, the viewers, us to interpret each art in our own way. And I don't know, I just feel like the visuals are just incredible. But also the costumes, the stage design of her tour, the performances, the sets, like impeccable taste. I feel like the album cover is very eye-catching, very pleasing to the eye. I think it's also very memorable because of its like unique elements to it. Gaga is pictured as this like bold sculpture right slap bang in the middle of the album cover. Behind her you can see the sliced images of the famous Renaissance painting, The Birth of Venus. I just love it. It's very avant-garde. I love it. Her style in this era was very theatrical, very performance arty. She wanted everybody to kind of say something or be shocked by what she was wearing, whether it was on stage or off stage. But I feel like off stage her outfits were much more theatrical. This is a costume that she wore, I'm not sure, some sort of promo for the album. Don't really know how to describe it, but one thing I love about Lady Gaga, she's willing to be uncomfortable for art, because I'm sure wearing this was not comfortable in the slightest. Fun fact, if you didn't know, Lady Gaga wore the world's first flying dress in this era, and it's called Volantis. I think that's pretty cool and adds to the whole theatricalness of this era. Again, it's really hard for me to describe her style because it's not really... I'm thinking of all the adjectives to try and describe her style during this era, but it was just theatrical, it was artistic, it was avant-garde, it was very, very interesting and cool. Honestly, her commitment to putting on these wacky costumes and crazy outfits together just shows how dedicated she is to her art, because, I mean, I don't know many people that would commit to an era or the art of their album in this way, you know. There's definitely a lot of artists that would do this, but Lady Gaga just always takes it to another level, and I definitely appreciate that about her and her artistry. Overall, I feel like the art pop era was definitely something that fans didn't expect and Lady Gaga herself didn't expect. To me, the art pop era felt like a necessary stepping stone to Gaga's continued career success. Honestly, I feel like every pop girly, every mainstream pop star or pop artist in general, any artist really, needs an era similar to the art pop one to kind of help them grow as an artist. Obviously, you don't need problematic music collabs and label drama, but I think it does help an artist grow, not only personally but creatively. I think it's safe to say that Lady Gaga and many others probably would have wanted the art pop era to go in a different way. However, I still feel like she achieved what she initially wanted. She wanted to introduce fans to a new sound, a new version of herself, and she did just that. Following on from the unexpected and short-lived art pop era, prior to the release of her 5th studio album, Lady Gaga released a collaborative duet album with Tony Bennett. The album was a jazz album titled Cheek to Cheek, and it was a passion project that quickly earned both Tony Bennett and Lady Gaga a Grammy Award, and the album also reached atop the Billboard 200. For a passion project, that is pretty impressive. Obviously, my passion projects don't get nearly as much acclaim, but when Lady Gaga has a passion project, it earns a Grammy, so I don't know. I feel like this was the beginning of Lady Gaga's artistic transition that we would see more of in the Joanne era. Lady Gaga was booked and busy during this time. Not only was she touring with Tony Bennett, doing amazing, critically acclaimed performances, she also won a Golden Globe for her appearance in American Horror Story. Mother was working, winning awards, touring, acting. Like, did she sleep? On the 21st of October 2016, Lady Gaga was finally ready to give us her 5th studio album titled Joanne. Joanne consists of stripped-down dance pop, soft rock, folk, and Americana sounds with a little bit of country elements. Themes on this album include family, grief, heartbreak, identity, friendships, and so much more. The record really focuses on Gaga's vocal ability, and I feel like that is a perfect approach to the album and the sounds due to its deep and personal lyrical content. As I'm sure many of you already know this, the album title Joanne is not only Lady Gaga's middle name, but it's also the name of Lady Gaga's late aunt, Joanne, who this album is heavily influenced and dedicated to. Fans are already introduced to a shift from Lady Gaga's previous records and from the art pop era, which was very much explosive, very gimmicky, and in this era, we're already getting a deep, personal, emotional connection to Lady Gaga through her art. So just seeing Lady Gaga not only as this super huge pop star person, but also as Lady Gaga, the human being with real human emotions. I always enjoy when a celebrity or a pop star like Lady Gaga really taps into the deep, personal sides to them, because it adds that relatability, you know? Stay tuned for part 2. Joanne debuted atop the Billboard 200, making it Lady Gaga's 4th consecutive album to achieve this. This record was also 2016's second highest debut for an album by a woman in the US, right behind Beyonce's Lemonade. What an amazing achievement. In this era, Gaga became the first woman to have 4 US #1 albums in the 2010s. Joanne was also nominated for a Grammy Award for Best Pop Vocal. Her singles, Joanne and Million Reasons, were also nominated for Best Pop Solo Best Pop Solo Performance? Best Solo Pop Performance at the Grammys. And out of the two, her single Joanne took home this award. The album rollout was very smooth, very specific, so well done, and honestly, nothing wrong with it. She did interviews, she did performances, she did magazines, she did photo shoots. She promoted the heck out of this album. And what I really love about Lady Gaga's approach to the promotion and marketing of the Joanne album is she was very personal with her fans and to the world. She was already being personal by giving us this album, but even in interviews, she really sat down and gave us the raw, honest truth when it came to the making of this album. When discussing the album in a past interview, Lady Gaga described Joanne as a wonderful and soul-searching experience. We do get a little glimpse into Gaga's musical approach and creative process for the Joanne album in her documentary Gaga 5'2". You should watch that if you haven't already. It is an amazing, amazing documentary. As well as doing all the interviews and TV appearances, all the usual album rollout, marketing, promo things, Lady Gaga also did a dive bar tour. And this was like a mini US promotional tour where she performed in 3 dive bars in the US. The reason for this was really because she wanted to showcase that raw Americana vibe that she was going for in this era, and she also just wanted to perform in a small intimate crowd, which I think is really sweet. It'd be cool to know if one of you guys went to one of Gaga's shows on the dive bar tour. It would be really interesting to see how that differed from her usual world tours on a big huge arena stage or in a stadium. I'd really be interested to know if any of you went. Let me know, please. She also went on a world tour, which I will discuss in the next video because I'm running out of time, but stay tuned for part 3. Following on from the incredible performance at the Super Bowl halftime show, Lady Gaga announced that she would be going on her 6th headlining concert tour, titled the Joanne Tour. She toured Europe, North and South America, and in total, the tour grossed $95 million. Now, although the tour is considered minimalistic in comparison to her previous tours, it wasn't necessarily like a minimalistic tour. She had a lot going on still on the stage and with the dancers, with her costumes, very avant-garde like pieces, and everything was still extra and still Lady Gaga, but it was just a different approach to the usual huge shows that she did in her previous tours. Although Lady Gaga still had like fire and dances and these cool outfits, she still took that time to speak to her fans, to speak to the audience on tour, and to kind of have that connection as she does, which I think is really sweet and ties in with the whole Joanne theme and the Joanne era of being honest and raw and truthful. Due to the messiness and the chaotic vibe of the art pop era, I feel like a lot of people forgot how talented Lady Gaga is, and through the little Cheek to Cheek tour and her Super Bowl performance, I feel like people started to remember that Lady Gaga is a vocalist. Like, she's got pipes, she can sing, and you see that a lot on tour with certain songs, the way she sings them. It's just like, how did she do that? But it's Lady Gaga. She's talented. She's raw talent. So I feel like a lot of people forget, if you don't follow Lady Gaga, if you don't listen to her music a lot, or if you don't watch her performances, they forget how talented she is. Now, not so much, but during this time, like post art pop era, 2016, 2017, 2018 maybe not 2018 because the Star is Born era, but like 2017. In this era, we really see Lady Gaga take on this wholesome, naturalistic, simplistic is that the same word? Naturalistic, simplistic, I don't know, I'm running out of adjectives, but this very stripped down look and approach to her appearance. She wore a lot of looks like this. She wasn't afraid of being papped. It's a very simplistic but cute outfit and still goes along with the little raw Americana vibe that she had going on at the start of the era. Stay tuned for part 4. This was Lady Gaga's ultimate vibe. Comfy, cute, not doing too much, not trying to be extra, not trying to put on a show, just being very normal, I guess. She was not afraid to be papped like this in this era, whereas in previous eras you'd see Lady Gaga most likely always, especially the beginning of her career, being papped in these crazy, wacky, interesting outfits. But in the Joanne era, she was like, I'm taking the naturalistic approach. You guys are gonna see me for who I am. I honestly feel like this is the perfect album cover art for a deep, personal album like Joanne. I also love the font and the stylized writing. I think the Lady Gaga and then the slash Joanne, it's a small detail, but I feel like it adds to the whole Lady Gaga is Joanne. Joanne is a part of Lady Gaga. We wouldn't have Lady Gaga if it wasn't for Joanne, if that makes sense. Like, I see that slight little detail being more than just, oh, let's just put a little slash punctuation in the album title. I think it's more than that. Even the way she isn't looking forward at the camera, she isn't looking at us straight in the eye. It's a side profile. First of all, her side profile eats the whole stripped backness of it. I could actually be here all day dissecting this album cover, even like with the showcasing of her tattoos. Like, I think everything is intentional, and the pale blue background, instead of it being just this white harsh light background, it's just pale blue that just feels very Americana and very raw and very much Lady Gaga, Joanne. It's perfect. Joanne has gone on to leave a huge impact, not only for Little Monsters, but in the music industry in general. We see artists like Miley Cyrus in her Younger Now era being inspired by this album, and Kesha in her Rainbow era also being inspired by this album. Of course, Gaga wasn't the first to take this approach in her music career, but she essentially spearheaded this trend of post-Joanne era, seeing artists kind of stripping back and having that yeehaw cowboy sound to their music.